As some of you may know, I don't just cover horror narrations on this channel. I'm kidding, of course, I know nobody watches my content. I am in fact here to give you a brief history of one of my favorite franchises in gaming history, Silent Hill. Truly a staple of the survival horror genre, up there with games such as Alone in the Dark and Resident Evil. Now, in celebration of the revival of Silent Hill, I'd like to briefly cover all of the stories in the series up to this point, starting at the beginning. In 1996, Konami, in efforts to compete with Capcom, created Team Silent, a disorganized and rowdy group of misfits in order to create a survival horror of their own that could rival the likes of Resident Evil. And so, after several years, dozens of turf battles, and multiple back-alley knife fights between Akihiro Amamura and Shinji Mikami, which left both companies confused considering Shinji wasn't even working on the latest Resident Evil, we were finally presented with Silent Hill. The game opens as most upbeat games do, with a car accident. Harry Mason, a single father on his way to Silent Hill Resort with his his daughter, for some rest and relaxation when he gets distracted by one of Elon Musk's tweets and completely totals his car. Anyways, hours pass and he wakes to find his daughter missing from the back seat. After scrolling through some memes on RFunny, he sees what could be Cheryl lurking in the distance, and after a brief chase, he finds himself fending off small children with knives. Scared, and wondering what subculture doesn't just skip knives and go straight to gun violence, he decides to take a nap. Or he dies, your choice. Harry wakes up sometime later in a diner with police officer Sybil Bennett. In complete shock about the disappearance of his daughter and the burning desire to get answers, he opts for the subtle approach of casual conversation. After discussing the latest tea and debating on what Kanye will do now that he's finally run his career into the ground, he briefly brushes over the topic of his daughter. Sybil relents, as she has not seen her, but agrees to keep her in mind when she's out playing Pokemon Go. Harry decides to search on his own, but is quickly stopped by Sybil. Remembering hearing of recent pterodactyl sightings in the area, decides to give him her gun. Also, they're within a couple of blocks of a public school, and you can never be too safe. After returning to the alley only to find it empty, he discovers a note from his daughter's notebook. The note reads, "To school." Fearing for his daughter's safety, Harry races to the local Midwich Elementary to make sure his daughter remembered to pack her lunch and bring an extra magazine. I'd be worried about controversy, but I know no one will make it this far. After fighting his way through the school, Harry finds himself face to face with a young woman who vanishes in front of him. Wait, isn't that the girl from the car accident? Or at least that's what Harry should have said, and not just accepting everything at face value. Confused and unsure why he had a child to begin with, Harry leaves the school to hear bells in the distance. Following the bells, he makes his way to a church, where he meets Dahlia Gillespie. Dahlia gives Harry the Flauros and sends him to Alchemilla Hospital. Before Harry can poke holes into the majority of the plot up to this point, Dahlia quickly makes her leave. After scrolling through his news feed and updating his relationship status, Harry makes his way to the local hospital where he meets Dr. Michael Kaufman. Alarmed by monsters roaming the town, Kaufman mistakes Harry for one of them, firing only to miss Harry by a few inches. "Please, don't shoot," exclaims Harry. Jeez, did I fucking write this? After a quick discussion about the worsening situation, Kaufman offers Harry to check out his true crime podcast. Harry declines as he's only halfway through Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, and doesn't want to risk any spoilers. Kaufman takes his leave, and after Googling how 2G prepares, Harry discovers a red substance scattered about the floor. Remembering the last time he had licked a strange substance from the ground in the past, Harry opts to find something to scoop the substance into, such as a vial, a beaker, I guess a plastic bottle will do. In Harry's exploration of the hospital, he comes across a photo of this fucking girl again. Eventually, Harry finds Lisa Garland, a nurse that heard she might be in a Silent Hill game, so she took refuge under a table. After a brief exchange, Harry passes out due to low blood sugar, and a scene change. He wakes to Dahlia rambling about a secret church, darkness, and her missing daughter. Wait, sorry, wrong Dahlia. She sends Harry to find an antique shop, because he has nothing better to do, and to stop the completion of the Mark of Samael. After meeting up with Sybil in the antique shop, Sybil tells Harry about the encounter she had with a little girl that could be his daughter, but ultimately gave up when she noticed she was in range of a Pikachu. I mean, seriously, what police officer just gives up on a pursuit, especially when it's a missing 7-year-old? Wait, never mind, American police. After discovering the altar, Harry is transported to Lisa inside the hospital, and Sybil is left to wonder why Harry would want a vacation here to begin with. and also why Game of Thrones Season 8 ended the way that it did. After some casual conversation, Lisa gives Harry directions to Toluca Lake before Harry passes out because I can only assume at this point he has a weak constitution. After some quick soul searching by the lake, Harry realizes he forgot to ask Lisa how to get to the resort. Wait, wasn't that his initial destination? How the fuck does he not know how to get there? Harry races back to the hospital to speak to Lisa because the developers need an excuse to pad the runtime. Lisa explains that there's a way through the sewers, like all good resorts, and Harry makes haste. After a trudge through the sewers, Harry is greeted by his first big choice, apart from the one to completely abandon his daughter and escape the town unscathed. He can choose to save Kaufman from a massive parasite or let him die. Assuming Harry isn't a dick, he saves him and Kaufman will thank him and leave. After a bit of rummaging, because he never learned to keep his hands to himself, Harry finds a glass vial with the same red liquid from before. Kaufman reappears to snatch it from him because, well, I've got nothing. Harry regroups with Sybil and Dahlia to recount all the good times they've had together before Harry and Sybil split up to stop the marks of Samuel in the lighthouse and park respectively. After failing to stop his mark from being completed because he was too busy looking for new Jeeps on AutoTrader, Harry relents and decides to go help Sybil. This is where Harry will meet his second big choice, after finding Sybil has been possessed by a parasite. He can choose to kill or save, but considering this is his first real date with another woman since his wife passed, oh yeah, she's dead, did I mention that? He decides to use the red liquid concealed safely inside of a plastic water bottle to save her. Suddenly, Alessa, the girl who'd been plaguing this adventure from the beginning, appears and throws Harry to the ground with the power of telekinesis because she could only choose one and the super strength seemed less effective overall. Harry activates his Floros, and after restraining Alessa's powers, Dahlia shows up for some exposition. She reveals that she's been the bad guy all along, which everyone expected. Alessa, Sybil, Cheryl, even the monsters. Save for Harry, who is still trying to figure out if there are two L's in silent. Harry then gets transported, telepathically, or maybe it's a dream, I don't know, to a place called Nowhere. Lisa is there, and she explains that she realizes she's been possessed the entire time, but was too high to notice. Cold and scared, Lisa seeks Harry for comfort. But Harry, convinced that COVID may have some new and varying symptoms, decides he's not ready for a committed relationship and takes off. After some pointless exploring, we find ourselves back with Dahlia for some more exposition. Dahlia explains that she's been the leader of a cult that dreams of summoning its god and one day making it big in Hollywood. So Dahlia had unprotected sex so she could have a daughter and create a vessel. That daughter happens to be Alessa, and after raising her for 7 years, decides to perform the ritual, but something goes horribly wrong and her soul splits in two. One part becoming Cheryl, and the other part was the angry soul of Andrew Tate trapped inside of Alessa. Alessa, hating the cult, her mother, and women in general, decides to forgive the town and take them all out to Benihana's. I'm kidding, she murdered a lot of people. We are now given the knowledge that Cheryl is not, in fact, Harry's daughter. Instead, Harry and his wife found a newborn on the side of the road and decided to adopt it as their own. As you do. 7 years since that day, and Alessa has decided to call back her ace in the hole to reunite in an effort to purge Silent Hill of reality, killing herself in the process and stopping the birth of a god. At this point, depending on Harry's actions, you will be greeted with 4 different possible endings and a joke ending on your second run if you complete it properly. I won't spoil them, but if this did interest you, I implore you to check out Nitro Rad, who does a great job covering all the games in the series and touches on a lot of the game's mechanics. Also, if you really love the lore and want a detailed explanation, Grand Gaming Channel touches on these as well in loads of detail. If you are interested, I'll link their channels in the description. Now, I know I missed a few facts, such as Silent Hill being set in Maine, or that the story takes place during 1983. Now, these are all fun facts to note, but don't get them confused with speculated rumors, such as the town acts as a sort of purgatory, or all protagonists are brought to the town for penitence, or that the voice acting wasn't half bad. If you made it this far, thank you for watching, and I hope if you enjoyed, you will comment and let me know what you thought. Like and share the video to help give it some exposure, and subscribe so that you can tune in for Silent Hill 2.